Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
Welcome back to the Infowars Nightly News. I'm your host, Rob Dew. This next story, I want to illustrate how the mainstream media just doesn't get it. And it's a story involving terrorism, drones, Mossad spies, even a little bit of Osama bin Laden thrown in. But this is how the narrative works. The mainstream media likes to push its narrative that's based on what it gets from the State Department, which is based mostly on lies and propaganda and psyops. And then you have us, which we actually look at the information, what it is, and decipher it and show it to you. And I'm going to go back all the way back to 2006. We've been posting on this person that I'm going to talk about in this next article. This is from Kurt Nimmo. It came out today. U.S. American hostage killed and counter-terror op in January. And I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom of this article, because basically what happened is they released a statement talking about some people got killed. And also in the statement, according to the statement, Adam Gadan was killed in a separate operation. Gadan is also known as Azam the American, allegedly acted as a cultural interpreter, spokesman, and media advisor for Al-Qaeda. In 2008, it was reported that Gadan was killed when the CIA military bombed a house where he was supposedly staying in Waziristan. It was later reported that he escaped unscathed. Now, Adam Gadan, who is this guy? Okay, this has got a lot of interesting, detailed information in it, but he's definitely not who he appears, as in with most of the things we get out of Al-Qaeda and that ilk. I go first to an article from 2006. This is from Steve Watson. New Al-Qaeda video, more CIA black op propaganda. And it talks about a new video come out, talking about a Californian named Adam Gadan. He's talking about, feeling the dark side. But here we go. Adam Gadan is in fact the grandson of the late Carl K. Perlman, a prominent Jewish urologist in Orange County. Carl Perlman was also a member of the board of directors of the Anti-Defamation League and was caught spying on the Americans for Israel in 1993. The information also appeared in the Jerusalem Post. So there we're looking at, this guy's got ADL contacts. His dad was caught spying, or his granddad was caught spying. And then Adam's got this whole history of being a death metal guy. And then he goes to a mosque and he converts. And then he moves out to the Middle East and starts making videos. So that's one part of information where he may be CIA. Here's another part. Another key indicator that Gadan is an employee of the Western Intelligence comes from a report of the Orange County Weekly, which details a man named Khalil Deek, a computer expert who attended the same mosque as Gadan and later became a top Al-Qaeda deputy, was continually protected by U.S. authorities and allowed to go free on several occasions. They were both accused of organizing a terror cell in Anaheim in the mid to late 90s. And this was before all of this anti-Muslim hatred that we now kind of see fomenting on the left and right. It was before all that was happening. These guys were in on the ground level, which indicates some foreknowledge. Now let's go to 2007. Mossad agent Perlman, we've gone from him being just a regular guy, but Mossad agent Perlman releases phony Al-Qaeda tape while Bush authorizes the CIA to bankroll and arm the real Al-Qaeda in Iran. And if we scroll down, Israel's Mossad intelligence agency was caught back in 2002 creating phony Al-Qaeda group to justify attacks on Palestinians. Perlman also has a knack for releasing tapes. Perlman is Gadan, remember, at the most politically opportune time for Bush, having first burst onto the scene shortly before 2004, the presidential election, and then right after Katrina when the president's approval rating was tanking fast. Even more mainstream publications like the Los Angeles City Beat have dismissed Perlman as nothing more than cartoonish propaganda. Also, he gets a lot of his videos are released out of a group called the Intel Center Group, a U.S. contractor that's headed by Vin Vazinski, and who's given the tape credence in media interviews. And remember that, we're going to get back to that later. So in this tape, all right, even Wired magazine reported on this back in August of 2007. Researchers' analysis of Al-Qaeda images reveals surprises. And what it revealed was that, and I'm going to go to the images here, if you scroll down to the images, that the Al-Qaeda bug and the writing there were put in the same layer, indicating that they were put in at the same time. The translation was done by this security group, but also the Al-Qaeda bug was put in at the same time. And this comes from the research of a hacker named Neil Krawitz. And he also looked at a 2006 video, which had a bunch of guys sitting on a desk laughing, and he said, well, it looks like the Al-Qaeda bug and the other bugs were all put in at the same time, indicating these are all coming from the same place. Now, after this article came out, I guess Croats contacted Kim Zetter, who is the author of this article, and says, wait a minute. I never said that they were on they were on the same level. It could have just been, it was the same compression used. He was backtracking this. Although she goes back, she does 3 updates on this article. Here's the 3rd update. And she writes, however, in a taped interview I conducted with Neil, after his presentation, he said the logos were on the same error levels and that it was indicated they were added at the same time. And so he backtracked on this after the article came out, no doubt due to pressure from someone else. Because there you can see some more examples of the work of where the bugs and the translation are being put out at the same time. Also, in that picture there, some books were added in. And this was clearly done by different people, not these guys in the caves in Afghanistan. So they had to backtrack that. The researcher backtracked it after he was called out, who knows, by someone in the State Department, maybe one of his liberal friends who's making money on keeping this Al-Qaeda narrative alive. Now let's go to 2009. Notorious double agent Gadan apologizes for Al-Qaeda murders. Notorious double agent Gadan apologizes for Al-Qaeda murders. And this also came out at a politically opportune time. This was right after the Major Hassan shooting up at Fort Hood, where he killed a lot of people. He came out praising that, which really is going to amp the anti-Muslim, anti-Al-Qaeda rhetoric, keep that narrative alive. What's interesting in this article, it also talks about that the house that was bombed, where he escaped unscathed earlier, was owned by one Majid Khan, who worked for the CIA. So he was in the home of a CIA agent that was bombed, and he got out okay. And it also talks about, in this article, some other interesting people, Zacharias Moussaoui, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and Omar Abdul Rahman, who are also patsies in this whole Al-Qaeda scheme. We have to have boogeymen that we can go after. And we've gone on the new tapes from the other Al-Qaeda offshoot groups. But let's move on. Here we go. Back in 2010, Al-Qaeda video calling for attacks on U.S. arrives day after Pentagon shooting. And this is just another example of how he puts out tapes at these convenient times. It's like his handlers are saying, hey, it's time to put out another tape. And there he is releasing one. And now here's a final article from Paul Joseph Watson back in 2011, May 6. U.S. government contractor claims Al-Qaeda has confirmed bin Laden fairy tale. And this talks about the group SITE, who's also getting some interesting intel. They're the ones always releasing these tapes. They seem to get them first before anybody else sees them. On the same weekend, SITE released a tape of Adam Perlman praising Farouk Abdul-Muttalib and Fazil Saeed, the alleged Times Square bombers. Adam Perlman is blatantly a Mossad spy who's releasing fake Al-Qaeda videos to bolster the geopolitical agenda of both the United States and Israel. That's right. As long as those narratives are out there, that we have a boogeyman that we have to be watching out for, you're just going to see a continuing ramp up of this war on terror. And now that we're through with Al-Qaeda, we now have ISIS, who has taken the place of them, another group that we've created, we're continually arming. And this is how the narrative works. Gadan was sort of like a peripheral player who just kind of appeared when we needed him to, very conveniently all the time, always with these videos coming out whenever a president's approval rating was low. And that's to boost it back up so he can come out and say, look, we still got to worry about these terrorists. I may be doing something bad here, but don't worry about that. Now, let's get back to the original article that this was all brought out about. U.S. American hostage killed in counterterror op in January. Now let's look at how, from this, we go to the CNN article. Adam Gadan, American mouthpiece for Al-Qaeda, killed. So they put him in the headline of the article as he was just kind of a leaf note in ours. While he wasn't one of top Al-Qaeda's leaders, Gadan was one of the most prominent members, given his many statements on behalf of the organization. He converted to Islam in 1995, left the United States for Pakistan 3 years later. His father said Gadan last contacted the family in 2002. So they're living right up to the narrative. See how CNN explains it? They're like, look, this guy, we really had to worry about him. It's a good thing we took him out. Good thing we took him out. And he was just kind of released in this statement as an afterthought. If he was this big political propaganda guy that we had never exposed, it would have been news everywhere that we got Adam Gadan, we got an Al-Qaeda operative, we got one of the top media lieutenants. But no, it's kind of pushed off to the side because we had already been exposing this guy for years and years. But CNN still running with the PSYOP because they think people are stupid out there. Now, let's just go back to the headline of this. U.S. killed American hostage in counter-op in January, counterterrorism op. So it talks about the American and the Italian hostage, and President Obama takes full responsibility for this death. He ordered the op. He said it was my fault. And he's come out and said, hey, man, I stand by. I put my name on all those drone strikes. Well, we produced a video back in December of 2012. We played a little bit of it on the Alex Jones Show today with David Knight. I want to play the whole thing now. And this is a memorial service that President Obama was going to for Sandy Hook families and talking about those children that were killed and all the other children that are killed by gun violence. You can find the full video titled Obama Orders Children Murdered on Prison Planet Live. It's got over 200,000 views. And basically what I wanted to illustrate, I produced this video because it really pissed me off watching him sit up there and pontificate about how, you know, these children were victims and there's gun violence and, oh, this is for all the children of gun victims everywhere. When this man goes out and orders men, women, and children who are innocent to be bombed on a regular basis. And I think he should be held accountable for that. So we're going to go to this full video. We're going to go to break. And then right before we come back, we're going to play a report from John Bound talking about another one of Obama's crimes, this massive prison break that he just basically signed off on with his own, you know, little red blood dripping pen. So we'll be back right after this. It's Infowars Nightly News, and I'm your host, Rob Dew.
Warning, viewer discretion is advised. You are going to see the evidence that President Obama knowingly and consciously orders the murder of men, women, and children, signs death orders where entire weddings or village gatherings are bombed by drones and other aircraft, knowing that children would be killed, and simply calling them collateral damage, dehumanizing them down to the word collateral damage. Think of the magnitude of that. We're going to show you the mainstream news articles where they admit he signs death orders to kill people in cars with their children. Even in the fictional Scarface, Tony Montana won't blow up the car when there's little kids in the back of it. You got to be really evil to do this. And we've just gotten to where it's passé, it's no big deal. And he has massively increased the drone strikes, even since the warmonger George W. Bush. And it is sickening and disgusting that Democrats, because he was given a peace prize, why not give Hitler one or Stalin? Because he's trendy, he's liberal, he's supposedly black. It's cool when he kills people and destroys Libya and now uses Al-Qaeda against Syria. It's so sick. And then you have that as a backdrop while he gets up there and fake cries and says, we've got to ban guns. And he's assigned a new task force that outside of Congress is going to call to ban guns. And Reuters says, be a dictator, Obama. They came out today. Use executive orders and take people's semi-autos. They don't need that for hunting. It's not for hunting. It's to protect ourselves from tyranny. And it's just so over the top because with Bush, it was bad enough, but he was just a warmonger. With Obama, you get to hear about how he's like Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King rolled into one, and he's this man of peace. And it's so loving what he's doing, and it's sick. So we're going to show you just some, in just a few countries, of the documented dead children where the Pentagon admits they killed them, and the death orders that President Obama has signed. And part of the Twitter feed we're going to use is off of a researcher, Josh Begley, who went and tweeted out, took him days to do it, all of the lethal drone strikes on children that have happened in the last few years. And it is just incredible. And it is hypocrisy on steroids. I would also add that YouTube, we're going to first air this on Infowars Nightly News, YouTube will allow images of dead children when it's in mainstream news. Back in the 60s, they allowed the image of burning children hit with napalm on via CBS, and that helped in the war. Now we're not allowed to see the flag-draped coffins. Now, unless it's mainstream news, we can't show you the images of these dead children. So make no mistake, it will be flagged, it will be blocked, it will be banned. So you be sure and get this video when you see it and post it on every channel out there. Because it starts with Obama giving a speech about loving children. It's totally hollow and hypocritical. And then it moves through just some of the children he has directly ordered be killed. And then it just shows some simple mainstream news article photos. But again, because of the context we're putting it in, his hypocrisy, the censors will try to block you seeing something that ended the Vietnam War and could end all of these undeclared illegal wars. We're trying to save children here. Not just the children killed at Sandy Hook, the 20, but the thousands killed by these illegal wars. And so everyone who really cares about children and just doesn't want to buy into the hype in the name of banning guns needs to get this video out to everyone they know. This is a very important piece put together by Rob Dew. The system does not want you to see it, so save it, burn it on disk, show it on local access television, and get it out on every video channel on the web. And when YouTube censors, like they've done in the past, we will simply use their attack on free speech and the truth as a way to get it out to even more people. We use the enemy's actions against them. So here is the report.
We gather here in memory of 20 beautiful children and 6 remarkable adults. They lost their lives in a school that could have been any school, in a quiet town full of good and decent people that could be any town in America. Here in Newtown, I come to offer the love and prayers of a nation. I can only hope it helps for you to know that you're not alone in your grief. That our world too has been torn apart. That all across this land of ours, we have wept with you. We've pulled our children tight. And you must know that whatever measure of comfort we can provide, we will provide. As a community, you've inspired us, Newtown. In the face of indescribable violence, in the face of unconscionable evil, you've looked out for each other. And you've cared for one another. And you've loved one another. This is how Newtown will be remembered. And with time and God's grace, that love will see you through. But we as a nation, we are left with some hard questions. And we learned that our most important job is to give them what they need to become self-reliant and capable and resilient, ready to face the world without fear. And we know we can't do this by ourselves. It comes as a shock at a certain point where you realize no matter how much you love these kids, you can't do it by yourself. That this job of keeping our children safe and teaching them well is something we can only do together, with the help of friends and neighbors, the help of a community, and the help of a nation. And in that way, we come to realize that we bear a responsibility for every child, because we're counting on everybody else to help look after ours. That we're all parents, that they're all our children. This is our first task, caring for our children. It's our first job. If we don't get that right, we don't get anything right. That's how, as a society, we will be judged. And by that measure, can we truly say, as a nation, that we're meeting our obligations? Can we honestly say that we're doing enough to keep our children, all of them, safe from harm? Can we claim as a nation that we're all together there, letting them know that they're loved and teaching them to love in return? Can we say that we're truly doing enough to give all the children of this country the chance they deserve to live out their lives in happiness and with purpose? I've been reflecting on this the last few days, and if we're honest with ourselves, the answer is no. We're not doing enough, and we will have to change. Since I've been president, this is the fourth time we have come together to comfort a grieving community torn apart by mass shootings. Fourth time we've hugged survivors. The fourth time we've consoled the families of victims. And in between, there have been an endless series of deadly shootings across the country, almost daily reports of victims, many of them children, in small towns and big cities all across America. Victims whose, much of the time, their only fault was being in the wrong place at the wrong time. We can't tolerate this anymore. These tragedies must end. And to end them, we must change. If there's even one step we can take to save another child, then surely we have an obligation to try. In the coming weeks, I'll use whatever power this office holds to engage my fellow citizens, from law enforcement to mental health professionals to parents and educators, in an effort aimed at preventing more tragedies like this. Because what choice do we have? We can't accept events like this as routine. Are we really prepared to say that we're powerless in the face of such carnage? That the politics are too hard? Are we prepared to say that such violence visited on our children year after year after year is somehow the price of our freedom? There's only one thing we can be sure of, and that is the love that we have for our children, for our families, for each other. The warmth of a small child's embrace. That is true. The memories we have of them, the joy that they bring, the wonder we see through their eyes, that fierce and boundless love we feel for them, a love that takes us out of ourselves and binds us to something larger. We know that's what matters. We know we're always doing right when we're taking care of them, when we're teaching them well, when we're showing acts of kindness. We don't go wrong when we do that. That's what we can be sure of. Charlotte, Daniel, Olivia, Josephine, Anna, Dylan, Madeline, Catherine, Chase, Jesse, James, Grace, Emily, Jack, Noah, Caroline, Jessica, Benjamin, Abigail, Allison. God has called them all home. For those of us who remain, let us find the strength to carry on and make our country worthy of their memory.
From the water table to our soils to the atmosphere itself, our world is becoming more and more toxic each and every day. But it's not just the air outside that's toxic. Indoor air has been shown to have 2 to 5 times higher concentrations of pollutants than even outdoor air. And most Americans spend 90% of their time inside using toxic chemicals within their homes. There are more than 42 million smokers in the United States. Well over 1,000 types of mold and mildew linked to numerous conditions. And don't forget the fact that 6 million Americans live with pets they're allergic to as well. When I began to research these statistics, it was clear to me it was time to start cleansing my lungs in order to combat the toxic environment that we cannot escape but that we can fight back against. Made with organic and wild cultivated herbs and manufactured in the USA, the new Infowars Life Lung Cleanse is here in a convenient spray bottle that can be brought with you throughout any toxic environment. Now available exclusively at InfowarsLife.com or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.